U.S. President Joe Biden pledged solidarity with Israel at what became the only stop of his Middle East mission that was derailed by a massive explosion at a Gaza hospital, which Biden said appeared to have been caused by Israel's force. Biden says that Israel has agreed to allow aid into the impoverished Gaza Strip, even as it wages a military campaign in response to Hamas attacks. Speaking to the media, Biden said the crisis strengthens determination for two-state solution.
I come to Israel with a single message. You're not alone. You are not alone. As long as the United States stands, and we will stand forever, we'll not let you ever be alone. Hamas committed atrocities that recall the worst ravages of ISIS, unleashing pure, unadulterated evil upon the world. There's no rationalizing it, no excusing it, period. While it may not feel that way today, Israel must again be a safe place for the Jewish people. And I promise you, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that it will be. You can't look at what has happened here to your mothers, your fathers, your grandparents, sons, daughters, children, even babies, and not scream out for justice. Justice must be done.
Morgan Vina is a former chief of staff to the U.S. ambassador at the United Nations, Nikki Haley, joining us live from Washington, D.C. Morgan, welcome to WION World is One. Do you think, in your own view, that Joe Biden's visit to Israel will have any impact? Will something change after he leaves Israel?
First, thank you for having me. I think this visit by President Biden was incredibly important. He needed to go set foot on Israeli soil and reiterate that the United States has the back of the Israelis in this war. I think it's incredibly important. He sent just the right message. It's deeply unfortunate that his meetings in Jordan, that Arab leaders canceled those meetings. I think it was a knee-jerk reaction to the bombing of the hospital. While tragic as it is, I think evidence points to the fact that it was indeed the Palestinian Islamic Jihad that was responsible for that, and President Biden called them out on it. To be clear, this is going to be a very ugly war. It is just starting. President Biden needs to continue to have the back of Israel. There are going to be lots of allegations of war crimes and crimes against humanity that are waged against Israel. Israel is perhaps one of the top tier countries in terms of protection of civilians, and I think that needs to be under.
Morgan, sorry to cut you short, but just coming into this conversation, and we keep on saying that the narrative is this war is going to be a very long and ugly war, but we are not considering the plight of Gazans. Each time we speak about the war, we do not talk about the plight of Gazans. This is a war between Israel and Hamas. What is the international community going to do, including the United States, to protect the plight of Gazans?
You know, I would actually disagree with you. I think the international community, and particularly the international media, has put a laser-like focus on the plight of the Gazan people. The Israelis and the United States have prioritized the need for Gazan civilians to head to the south, for Egypt to open the Rafah border. I think it's truly interesting here that the Egyptians are the ones that are refusing to open that border crossing. The United States has prioritized the protection of Gazan civilians and is working desperately with Israel to ensure that the innocent civilians are protected in this war. To be clear, though, Israel has a right to defend itself. This is not retaliation. This is self-defense, and it has a right to defeat Hamas both politically and militarily.
Morgan, you're right. Israel has the right to defend itself, but at what expense? Because if we talk about where Gazans go, all the crossings are closed. Egypt says that they do not want to open the crossings because they fear that militants may use that opportunity to get into their country. But what happens to innocent Palestinians? Because again, I will say it again, this is a war between Israel and Hamas, not Gazans.
No, that is correct. It is a war against Israel and Hamas. Let's be clear, though, who elected Hamas in 2006? Hamas is serving a 14-year term of a 4-year term. I think it's incredibly important to note here that it is Hamas that is holding these civilians hostage, not the Israelis, not the Americans, not the Egyptians. The Egyptians has certainly a role to play in this, particularly when it comes to opening that Rafah crossing to innocent civilians, women, and children. But I think we need to be very clear here about who needs to be held accountable, and that is the terrorists in Gaza.
What if the crossings, Morgan, finally, what if the crossings do not open? Where do these Gazans go? What is Israel, or can Israel do something to save the innocent Gazans or Palestinians?
Sure. Israel has been very clear that Gazans need to move south of the country. That clearly they are prioritizing Hamas infrastructure and personnel. We've seen very targeted, deliberate strikes by the IDF here. And I think that when moving forward, Gazans need to listen to those warnings. They need to head south, and they need to ensure that that Hamas in particular does not limit their movement.
All right. Morgan, Vina, thank you very much for your time and for talking to WION World is One today.
Thank you for having me.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.